welcome to today's Medical Alley webinar titled Optimizing Sustainability in Reusable Medical Devices, presented by TubeSud. So glad to have everybody with us here today as our attendees start to filter in. My name is Ben Wagner. I'm the Associate Director of Communications here at Medical Alley, and I will be your host for today's session. First, before we begin, I do want to offer a big thank you to TubeSud for their continued partnership and support. They have been a wonderful partner of ours, and we are excited to continue building that relationship here today. TubeSud is a global leader in testing, certification, and auditing, helping organizations ensure quality, safety, and sustainability across a wide range of industries, as I'm sure many of you know, including healthcare and medical devices. Their expertise plays a critical role in developing safer, more sustainable technologies worldwide. We are really excited to welcome our panelists here this morning who are able to share their knowledge and their insights. Joining us today are Jessica Schmidt, the Scientific Project Manager at TubeSud, and Hannah Rounsville, a Biological Team Lead also at TubeSud. So in today's conversation, they will walk us through some practical strategies to extend device lifespans, improve reprocessing methods, and reduce waste, all of course, while keeping patient safety and regulatory compliance front and center. So again, we are so glad to have you joining us here this morning for this important discussion on driving sustainability forward in healthcare. And with that, I am excited to hand it over to Hannah and Jessica to kick things off. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Ben. And good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today. I'm Hannah Rounsville, the Biological Team Lead at TubeSud in New Brighton. In my role, I oversee the microbiology and biocompatibility teams, guiding both personnel and daily laboratory operations. I work closely on study design, and I am passionate about driving new developments and continuous improvement in the lab. I'm excited to be co-presenting today with my colleague Jessica Schmidt, where we both share a strong commitment to the reusable medical device industry and to advancing sustainability practices in healthcare. Jessica will now introduce herself and walk us through today's agenda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Schmidt. I'm a Scientific Project Manager at TubeSud. As my title suggests, I help oversee and manage projects. I've been in the medical device space for over 10 years now. I'm passionate about driving innovation, fostering a positive culture, and maintaining strong client relationships. On the next slide, I'll go over the agenda for today's presentation. So we'll begin with a brief introduction and outline the objectives. So our goal is to understand how optimizing IFUs can contribute to both compliance and sustainability goals. Next, we'll focus on the growing importance of sustainability in healthcare and the regulatory pressures driving this shift. We'll look at why sustainability should be a key priority for all stakeholders. Then we'll define what an IFU is and dive into the rationale for optimizing them, not just for usability and compliance, but also to support long-term device performance. We'll walk through actionable strategies for optimizing your IFU, covering content clarity, user-centric design, and regulatory alignment. We'll examine how sterilization processes can affect IFUs and discuss ways to improve their robustness, ensuring durability throughout the device's life cycle. We'll highlight two critical areas that offer the most impact for sustainability: alternative disinfection and sterilization. Then we'll look how smart device design decisions starting from the IFU can directly contribute to extending the usable life of the medical device. Next, we'll cover the importance of training, proper handling, and maintenance protocols, all of which are guided by the IFU and are essential to achieving your sustainability goals. And finally, we'll summarize the key points discussed and leave you with practical takeaways that you can implement in your own work.
Yeah, so before we dive into the details, we're going to take a moment to look at the bigger picture. So sustainability challenges affect every industry across the globe. This includes the medical device and healthcare industries. We rely on finite resources, yet we're facing growing demand and increasing pressure to do more with less. In the traditional linear economy where we're taking, we make, and we dispose, we can no longer work in a world where environmental resilience is critical to public health. For example, the World Health Organization made this clear in a 2024 facts sheet, strongly emphasizing minimizing healthcare waste as a priority. They outline clear actions for reducing healthcare waste, one of the most significant being the prioritization of reusable medical products where it is safe and practical to do so. The focus of today's discussion is to explore how our industry is actively driving these changes and embracing the opportunity to move forward. not merely to meet regulatory requirements, but to lead with innovation, accountability, and long-term impact. All right, so now let's take a closer look at what the shift towards more sustainable practices really means for medical device manufacturers. First, environmental responsibility is becoming a practical necessity. We're seeing more frequent supply chain disruptions and higher demand for resource efficiency. The COVID-19 pandemic was a very clear example of how quickly essential materials can become scarce. This highlighted the importance of designing systems that can do more with less. For manufacturers, this means building products and processes that are more resilient, using fewer inputs, minimizing waste, and extending the life cycle of devices. These aren't just environmental goals, they're operational improvements that increase reliability and reduce risk. Then on the economic side, sustainable practices are proving cost-effective. Facilities are saving through energy-efficient operations and reduced waste disposal fees. More durable products mean fewer replacements and less downtime for customers. That's a very competitive advantage. Manufacturers around the globe are also exploring circular economy strategies, designing products that can be reprocessed, refurbished, or recycled efficiently. This kind of forward-thinking design is becoming a key differentiator in the market. We're also seeing a clear shift in procurement trends. Healthcare providers are starting to evaluate environmental impact as part of their purchasing criteria. That creates an opportunity for manufacturers to align their products with the values and expectations of their customers. And then finally, regulations and standards are evolving. While the specifics do vary by region, the trend is very consistent. This growing emphasis on product transparency, life cycle impact, and sustainability performance. Staying ahead of these expectations is simply good business planning. And in short, focusing on sustainability helps manufacturers build smarter, more efficient systems, meet customer demand, and stay competitive in a changing industry landscape. Now let's take a closer look at how regulations are playing a growing role, as we mentioned, in shaping how we approach sustainability in the medical device industry, even when it's not explicitly stated. In the EU, MDR emphasizes traceability, material safety, and supply chain transparency, all of which encourage cleaner, more responsible manufacturing. And additionally, the new Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the CSRD, does require companies to disclose environmental and social performance, driving accountability across the industry. Then in the US, regulatory shifts are creating strong incentives for manufacturers to adapt cleaner, safer sterilization technologies. The EPA's updated national emission standards for hazardous air pollutants, or the NESHAP, are placing stricter limits on ethylene oxide, EO emissions, prompting medical device companies to explore lower emission or alternative sterilization methods. These changes reflect growing concerns about the long-term environmental and public health impact of EO due to its toxicity and potential carcinogenicity. To support these transitions without disrupting patient access or innovation, the FDA has issued new guidance offering regulatory flexibility for Class 3 devices switching from EO. This allows manufacturers to modify the sterilization process to reduce EO usage or switch to alternative technologies, such as vaporized hydrogen peroxide, VHP, radiation, or steam sterilization, without requiring a full reapproval, provided safety and efficiency remain intact. And then globally, the UN Sustainable Development Goals continue to guide industry expectations around responsible production and healthcare outcomes. Altogether, these regulations are creating momentum, not just towards compliance, but towards innovation, transparency, and smarter design. And that brings us to an essential tool in driving sustainable practices for reusable medical devices, the IFU.
Thanks, Anna. So what is an IFU and why should we optimize it? So IFU stands for Instructions for Use, and it outlines the intended use, warnings or precautions, contraindications, storage, disposal, and reprocessing instructions. IFUs play a critical role in ensuring that medical devices are used safely, effectively, and sustainably. And they aren't just helpful guidance, they're actually required by regulatory bodies, specifically the FD&C, Act as well as 21 CFR Part 801. Additionally, the FDA has issued specific guidance on reprocessing medical devices in healthcare settings, including both validation methods and labeling requirements. So why should we care about optimizing IFUs? Because doing so supports sustainability through the 3 R's. The first R is reduce. By following optimized IFUs, we can reduce energy and chemical use and minimize waste generation. So this includes reducing the use of single-use waste. Reducing our consumption and waste generation can also help lower operational costs. The next R is reuse. Optimized IFUs extend the life of medical devices by supporting safe and effective reprocessing practices. By properly cleaning, disinfecting, and sterilizing devices, we can safely reuse them across the lifespan of the device. When devices are built to last and staff are trained properly, we see fewer device failures, less turnover, and ultimately a smaller environmental footprint. And the final R is recycle. Recycle devices when available, or inquire about manufacturer buyback programs, also ensuring that chemicals used are neutralized and disposed of properly. Finally, optimizing your IFU can align directly with broader institutional sustainability goals, helping hospitals and healthcare systems lower their environmental footprint while maintaining high standards of patient care. In the next slide, Hannah will discuss practical strategies for IFU optimization.
So now that we've looked at what an IFU is and why optimizing it matters, let's explore how we can make these optimizations not just effective, but sustainable. Each of these strategies isn't just about usability. They also play a role in reducing waste, extending device life, and supporting the growing sustainability goals of healthcare systems worldwide. First, we can start by tailoring instructions to real-world use. IFUs designed with real clinical workflows in mind help reduce user errors that can damage devices or lead to unnecessary disposal. When instructions reflect actual practice, users are less likely to take shortcuts that compromise reusability. Put simply, realistic IFUs lead to longer-lasting devices and less waste. Next, simplifying and standardizing language. Plain, consistent language reduces misinterpretation, cutting down on errors, repeated reprocessing, and the waste of materials and time. Clarity leads to consistency, and consistency supports sustainability by minimizing rework and reducing the likelihood of device damage. We can also add visual aids and diagrams. Clear visuals accelerate learning, improve compliance, and help technicians quickly spot issues such as residue or wear that might otherwise go unnoticed. For an example, if a technician has a frame of reference of when a device is beginning to degrade, they're less likely to miss these issues that lead to early failure and disposal. Then validate through usability testing. Well-designed usability testing not only verifies clarity and compliance, it also uncovers unintentional practices that may lead to inefficient use of resources, such as excessive chemical usage, unnecessary reprocessing steps, or device wear that can be prevented. When performed by or in partnership with an experienced validation lab, these studies help refine IFUs to support both sustainable device longevity and operational efficiency. The result is safer outcomes, reduced environmental impact, and strengthened confidence across the device's life cycle. We can also include troubleshooting and inspection guidelines, empowering users to identify and respond to early signs of wear, improper assembly, or performance issues, which keeps devices in circulation longer. That's fewer replacements and a lower environmental and financial burden. And then optimizing for digital and on-demand access. Transitioning to digital IFUs reduces paper waste and allows for faster, eco-friendly updates. Features like QR codes and mobile portals gives users access to the latest sustainability-focused guidance, from approved cleaning agents to updated reuse protocols. Then we can also integrate sustainability considerations. This one's much more explicit. IFUs should include details that help users make environmentally responsible choices. That means listing compatible eco-friendly cleaning agents, providing reusable packaging instructions, or recommending energy-efficient sterilization cycles when it applies. And then ensuring regulatory compliance. Keeping IFUs up to date with current environmental and device standards is essential. As discussed, regulatory bodies are beginning to fold sustainability into compliance expectations, and being productive here helps to be prepared for the future. Also, embedding green guidance directly into the IFU can make it easier for users to do the right thing. And altogether, optimizing your IFUs with sustainability in mind not only improves safety and usability, it reduces environmental impact, extends device life cycles, and aligns your device with the evolving values of healthcare providers and patients alike. Next, Jessica will take a closer look at how IFUs can be more robust, especially when exposed to repeated sterilization cycles.
So the Spalding classification system can be used as a framework to discuss IFU robustness. So this classification helps us determine the required level of disinfection or sterilization based on how the medical device is used. So the first category is critical devices. Critical devices are those that enter sterile tissue or the vascular system. They require sterilization, which can include methods like steam sterilization, ethylene oxide, or vaporized hydrogen peroxide. These are the most rigorous processes, ensuring the highest level of patient protection. Examples of critical devices would be like surgical instruments or implants. Next is semi-critical devices. Semi-critical devices come into contact with mucosal membranes or non-intact skin. For these, high-level disinfection is typically sufficient. There are currently 36 high-level disinfectants that are approved by the FDA, 9 of which are specifically designed for use in an automated system, and many of the HLDs on the market are glutaraldehyde-based. Examples of semi-critical devices are respiratory equipment and then certain types of endoscopes. And so finally, we have non-critical devices. Non-critical devices typically only touch intact skin, and they have the least health risk to the patient. So these can be disinfected using low-level disinfection methods, typically using an EPA-approved wipe or spray products. So examples of non-critical devices would be like a blood pressure cuff, stethoscope, pulse oximeters, etc. In the context of this webinar, we're examining the patient and sustainability benefits of upgrading your IFU to sterilization. From a patient safety standpoint, sterilization is considered the gold standard. Sterilization destroys all forms of microbial life, including bacterial spores, viruses, fungi, and mycobacteria. Automated sterilization processes also reduce the chance for human error and help ensure consistent and effective outcomes. From a sustainability standpoint, optimizing sterilization practices means reducing the use of harsh or toxic chemicals, which in turn reduces the opportunity for workplace hazards such as respiratory and eye irritant concerns, and also special disposal considerations. Steam and low-temp sterilization options typically have less toxic byproducts, and low-temp sterilization options can also help extend the usable lifespan of devices, which ultimately lowers waste and environmental impact. There are 2 key areas to focus on when developing more sustainable IFUs. Hannah is going to dive into those a bit more on the next slide.
Yeah, building on Jessica's discussion of the Spalding classifications and the increasing reliance on sterilization, let's now focus on the 2 essential strategies for making IFUs more safer and sustainable. So for embracing alternative disinfectants is huge. For semi-critical and non-critical devices, traditional disinfectants often pose health, environmental, and material risks, especially those with high toxicity or poor compatibility with device materials. Instead, IFUs can promote safer, more sustainable cleaning options. Eco-friendly enzymatic or hydrogen peroxide-based detergents, which are biodegradable and break down in non-toxic byproducts when exposed to water and oxygen. We can take neutral pH products and formulations recognized by EPA's Safer Choice Program, which is a voluntary partnership initiative for disinfectant manufacturers aimed at promoting products with safer chemical ingredients, and also material compatibility matters. Sustainable solutions must still preserve device integrity through repeated reprocessing cycles. So by updating IFUs with recommending these alternatives, we reduce exposure to hazardous chemicals and support greener, safer clinical environments. And then advancing alternative sterilization methods. Sterilization provides the highest assurance of patient safety, eliminating all microbial life, including spores, which can be hard to eliminate even with high-level disinfection. Sterilization is generally the most appropriate for devices that enter sterile body sites or contact mucous membranes. But why prioritize sterilization over high-level disinfection? While we mentioned complete microbial kill, we can eliminate resistant organisms that may survive disinfection, especially when manual processes fall short. Automation also reduces risk. So sterilization methods like VHP are automated, reducing human error and ensuring consistency. Lower temperature sterilization is also more compatible with more materials now than ever, allowing sensitive devices to be sterilized without compromising their durability, and then reduce chemical exposure for healthcare workers and lowering environmental toxicity. For an example of this type of approach, let's consider devices like flexible endoscopes, which often require over 200 steps during manual reprocessing. This complexity increases the risk of human error and resource waste. So by simplifying reprocessing steps and incorporating safer automated sterilization options into these IFUs, we can improve compliance and consistency, lessen our environmental footprint, and maintain the highest infection control standards possible. And shifting from manual disinfection to sustainable reprocessing represents a major opportunity. We can protect our patients, support our staff safety, and reduce environmental harm, all through smart IFU design. Up next, we'll explore how smart device design and tracking systems can further extend device life and drive sustainability across the full product life cycle.
So as we think about sustainability and reusability, one of the most effective strategies is smart device design. So designing with longevity in mind. So let's break down some key areas that contribute to extending the lifespan of medical devices. So the first would be durable materials. So using high quality medical grade materials can greatly improve durability. Materials such as stainless steel, titanium, or PEEK have a high resistance to external factors such as corrosion and chemical resistance, which is critical in environments that involve repeated sterilization cycles. Next, we have IFU considerations. So it's important to ensure compatibility between your materials and the reprocessing methods. Designing devices with reprocessing in mind can help alleviate potential issues down the road. Complex features like knurled surfaces, mated edges, or crevices can all pose challenges when it comes to reprocessing. And just as important is also to include clear disassembly instructions. This can make reprocessing and servicing easier and more effective. Moving on to part replacement. Rather than disposing of an entire device when one component wears out, smart design allows for individual parts to be replaced. This can significantly reduce waste and cost over time. And finally, device tracking. So integrating a tracking system that helps monitor usage and maintenance history. So you can use data-driven insights to make informed decisions about when a device needs servicing or replacement, ensuring both efficiency and patient safety. So by making intentional design choices upfront, we can significantly enhance both the lifespan of the devices and the sustainability of our healthcare systems.
All right, and as we wrap up the device lifecycle considerations, it's important to highlight the shared responsibilities between manufacturers and healthcare facilities in ensuring that reusable devices are handled, maintained, and tracked effectively. First, manufacturers must ensure that handling and maintenance guidance is clearly communicated in the IFU, aligning with current regulatory expectations. This should also include training resources to help promote staff safety when handling and reprocessing the device, particularly for complex or delicate instruments. Preventative maintenance should be emphasized, such as including recommendations for routine inspections, guidance on cleaning verification, and criteria for part replacement. Additionally, manufacturers can support sustainability and traceability by offering barcoding systems or tracking solutions, which does allow to monitor the age, usage cycles, and maintenance history of each device, as Jessica mentioned. And then on the facility side, it's essential to translate those IFUs into internal standard operating procedures or SOPs, ensuring that cleaning and handling procedures are carried out consistently. This is aligning with recommendations from the CDC. Facilities should conduct routine staff training on safe use, handling, and reprocessing, especially as devices, protocols, or staff change. They should also perform visual inspections and use cleaning validation tests to confirm reprocessing efficiency as recommended in AAMI ST91. And then finally, integrating tracking systems is also on the end of the healthcare provider, providing that traceability across the device's life cycle. And then ultimately, effective handling, training, and maintenance practices all help extend device lifespan, reduce risk, and ensure the integrity of reprocessing, all of which are critical for patient safety and sustainable operations.
So before we wrap up, we want to leave you with a few key thoughts on sustainability in healthcare. So first and foremost, sustainability isn't just a trend, it is a responsibility. It ties directly to what we do every day, improving patient outcomes, running efficient operations, and protecting our planet. When we focus on reducing our carbon footprint, cutting down on waste, optimizing IFUs, we're making healthcare stronger and more resilient for the future. Thoughtful design decisions and proper training can significantly extend the life of devices, meaning fewer replacements, less waste, and better resource use. We also need to look at our IFUs. When these are optimized, they help support safer care, reduce compliance issues, and promote sustainable practices. By selecting EPA Safer Choice products or choosing low temperature sterilization when possible, we support both patient safety and environmental stewardship. At the end of the day, sustainability supports the very mission of healthcare. It's about protecting people, preserving resources, and delivering quality care for generations to come. Thank you. And remember, even small steps can have a significant environmental impact.
Thanks, Jessica. And we would also like to briefly mention our Medical Device Testing Center of Excellence here in New Brighton, Minnesota. As an ISO 17025 accredited facility, we support manufacturers with a wide range of testing services, from biocompatibility and microbiology to packaging and MRI safety, and much more. Our goal is to provide thorough, reliable support to help bring safe, effective devices to market, all while keeping pace with the evolving needs and evolving regulations of the medical device industry.
Well, Hannah, Jessica, thank you so much for that thorough and detailed presentation. For everybody watching, there is Hannah and Jessica's contact is there on your screen if you have any thing you'd like to follow up with them about. But in the meantime, while we have some time here at the end, this is your opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. That Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to click on that and be able to type your question in there, and we can get those answered as well. And then a QR code to learn more about all the great services that TÜV has to offer as well. As we get started here, I've got a couple of questions that I'll pose to the group here as we start to get some of those other questions to start to come in. Hannah, Jessica, are there standards or tools for calculating the environmental impact of some of these different reprocessing methods?
Yeah, Jessica, do you want to touch on this one? I know you
Sure.
kind of read up on these standards.
Yeah, so typically the main one you would use is the life cycle assessment, so the LCA. So it's kind of widely used to evaluate your environmental impact of cleaning, disinfection, and sterilization. So there are actually 2 ISO guidances out there currently that kind of overview and outline how to do that. And it's ISO 14040 and ISO 14044.
All right, perfect. Another question coming in from the audience here is, do you have the capabilities to perform particulate testing per USP 788 on vascular medical devices?
So at our site, we do not currently have that availability. However, within our global sister network of laboratories, we do. So we could certainly put you in touch with somebody from the sales team who would be able to help fit your needs.
Another question here is, how can startups or smaller manufacturers implement these sustainability strategies without that major upfront investment?
So we can start by embedding sustainability into IFU language and design. It's really straightforward, but very low cost, but with a really high impact. So that standardized, validated cleaning agents and methods help avoid complex testing, and then partnering with labs or service providers offering bundled validation services, we can help push towards pointing to issues in IFUs that could be room for sustainability growth.
Another question coming in here from the audience about the cost effectiveness comparison of reusable devices when using disposable devices. I wonder if you could share just more about your point of view and the point of view from a healthcare institution, and how does scale matter in that situation?
So I think in general, the reusable devices tend to have less or are more effective in terms of their lifespan. And as we touched on, if you're implementing proper reprocessing practices with staff, their lifespan can be increased to kind of its maximum availability. If you have single-use devices or disposable devices, there tends to be more of an environmental impact. There is kind of that option as well, if it's possible, to have reprocessing instructions for the single-use devices. But I do think that scale is very important. There are certain areas where single-use devices are necessary. And it's kind of it's dependent on each situation as to how you can use either reusable or if single-use is kind of a better option.
Another question coming in here. What are the best practices for validating IFU instructions across multiple reprocessing environments?
So as far as, IFU needs to reflect, the clinical application of use. So if there's several environments in which the reusable medical device is being used, it is best practice to simulate those different types of environments, whether that includes it's coming from the ER where it could have blood contact. We would recommend a blood testing soil, or if it's just being used in, a standard clinic setting where it's not coming into contact with blood. Those are all considerations that can be built into those validation experiments.
Excellent. Well, I just want to remind everybody too, a little bit more time left here. If there are any other questions, to put those into the Q&A box there as well. And we've got just a little bit of time for Jessica and Hannah to answer some of those questions as well here. So as we maybe wait for a couple more questions to come in, Hannah, Jessica, any kind of final thoughts for this group that you would like to share?
I think that, sustainability is very important. I think we all recognize that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. I think it's very dependent on your processes that you have in place, but knowing that even small changes can have a lasting impact is very important.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of that too, what Jessica said, minimal changes in IFU and finding optimizations in your validation practices can really lead to can lead to really large changes, whether it's, reducing the amount of disinfectant you're using, cutting down on those extra cycles. It may seem small, but ultimately small changes can really lead to larger sustainability goals in the clinic.
Thank you both really for sharing your insights. I think this has been a really wonderful and insightful conversation and presentation. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that TÜV SÜD is doing to really kind of to share and elevate sort of this conversation around sustainability in reusable medical devices as well. So thank you both for being here today.
And thank you to Medical Alley for hosting.